match is now officially a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
I can see my fantasy, I'm so consumed in bed. What I see takes over me, I'm blind beyond rebel.
Dude, honestly, I could just fucking run that song all show and I'd be happy. Fucking love that song. He got his championship.
Who better than Canyon? Must be Russ with that championship belt.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show tonight. My name, hold on, let me go through all of these banners, is Clinton Davis. You can find me at PK Batman on Twitter. You can find my co-host to my right at Jensen Collins 3. That is Ethan Hubbard. Below me, from the Snow the Goalie podcast, having a really busy time with all these playoffs and the Phillies and the Flyers getting ready. It's Russell Joy on Broad on Twitter. Also, our 4-post massacre world heavyweight championship.
Phillies getting ready for that really busy postseason.
The Russ has come back to on a forklift. Gotta be quiet. I'm in the studio.
We missed you last week.
I'm in the studio. My daughter's room is on the other side.
Our viewer count missed you last week.
She. This is the face that runs the place. Is that how this works?
So before we
say
start,
much. That's not great.
I have to tell a story, and I was waiting to tell it until we got on air. But I actually got a message from someone about wanting to sponsor us. You guys want to hear that message?
No.
Yes, I vaguely am interested. I don't even know this, Russ.
I made a post where someone from GCW posted Detroit with the hookup, and he just posted all the weed that he had. And I made a share, and I was like, yeah, if you come through Detroit and you go out to a parking lot after a wrestling event, there's at least a dozen cars with a bunch of people token up in them, and they are willing to share weed. So I posted that. I got a message from a guy. I'm going to keep this completely anonymous because this is illegal. Yo, who are you? First question I say. Sorry for jumping into your message box. I meant no disrespect. I am a vendor trying to sell my stuff, and I was asking if you guys would promote me on your show.
No.
I am a psychedelic grower, and I'm an advocate. I've got LSD, DMT cards, peyote, ketamine, MDMA pills, THC weed bars, 1-Up chocolate bars, and was just wondering if you guys would be interested. And I said, bro, at most we podcast to like 7 people a week live and maybe 20 people on YouTube after. Also, I'm pretty sure most of that is illegal.
So what you have there is what we call an example of a seller tasting their product, sampling their product.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
There we go.
Absolutely beautiful.
So needless to say, I'm becoming very big in the weed wrestling.
It all starts with you and Wesley. And then
me and Wesley. Who the fuck is that other guy? I didn't smoke weed with anyone else besides Wesley.
No, the guy you interacted with was Emo, though. He's the ring announcer for GCW.
Mm-hmm.
He's the dude that gets way too into it, which is great. No, continue to get into it. Anyway, man,
you didn't message back.
Not yet. He's got to come down.
Turns out Clint is a cop to this guy. That's what's happening here.
I'm the narc here. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's me. That's me.
Man,
I'm a part of the WWC
Pro Wrestling podcast. Already getting in here, getting freaky this early.
Is beautiful.
Not quite as freaky as Clint, I think, got during the
Sheeta match.
But I don't normally get thirsty over wrestling, but goddamn Sheeta. Holy Sheeta, that's for goddamn sure.
How are we going about this today, by the way, Jen?
So there's something that happened during that match. I mean, that we brought that up. Let's talk about that match while we're at. There's something that happened, and it happened on commentary. The match was, a bone pick with a certain thing that AEW does here in just a second. But Jim Ross says Sheeta's very Americanized, and thank God for Excalibur. Going, well, she lives here. She makes her home here. Like, basically, like, what did you expect, Jim? She's lived in this country for 3 years. She's obviously still not going to be, like, pointless. So, but my bone to pick with AEW, and I'll get the negativity out here. the Philly street fight, the Texas death match, the Florida man match, which has got to come at some point. I don't need that all the time. Like, I get the Philly thing because of 2300 and the ECW connections and things like that everybody like wants to push. I don't need a Texas death match every time we're in Texas. I just don't need it. I feel like it's kitsch. Is that off base?
Well, it's especially bad when, one, the Texas death match doesn't follow the Texas death match rules. And two, the Philly street fight was nothing more than a regular match with some kendo sticks and chairs. There was nothing special about it. It actually felt like, to some extent, that like this is ADD booking again, but like, was the intention for that to be the main event, and then you kind of panicked a little bit and you decided that like, no, we've got to kind of fast track getting the belt off of Sammy and putting it on Scorpio, which I still don't understand. That's a whole other thing, but like, it felt like you had what you would typically make two main events in the second hour. And see, like, I look at it and I say, this show was just horribly imbalanced. It was a good show, and like there were good moments to it, but the first half of the show catered to one kind of fan, and the back half of the show catered to a totally different kind of fan. And like, in theory, if you want to argue that this company does a really good job of creating a hybrid, a fusion, something that like everybody can enjoy, you can't do that. And to me, it almost felt like the rumors of the potential Discovery Warner merger, the disappointment of them losing roughly 350 to 400,000 viewers from the Big Bang Theory to the first hour of Dynamite. It's almost as if Tony Khan said, all right, if I lead in with the kind of stuff that like we initially sold people on being here, this more sports oriented, this more realism stuff, is that audience going to show up? And I think what we're going to see here over the next month or so is a lot of tinkering with that. Will he lead next week's show the same way if the first hour was strong ratings-wise? I think there's a lot of chess that has to get played here because it was too imbalanced. It didn't make sense. You can't build people up with the hard-hitting realism action and then Jericho and then the 10-man tag and the street fight and the ladder match. It's just too, too disjointed.
You know what? I think the Eddie Kingston Jericho promo is a perfect depiction of how the first hour went and the second hour went, because they were they were going into the second hour with Kingston and the Jericho promo, and you have your sports entertainment side, and then you have your wrestling side. And I do truly believe that you are absolutely correct. I believe in the first hour we got wrestling. Yep. We got fucking Jackson Cash, which was fantastic with CM Punk on commentary. We had BCC in there. What other match was in the? Oh, and then we had the big meaty men slapping meat match. Yep. And then we went into Kingston and Jericho, which that also is when Kingston's getting in Jericho's face. Like, that's the realism part, like the wrestling part. And then you have Jericho playing that, which is a great segue into the second half of the show, which felt more sports entertainment oriented. The Sheeta Deeb match, it wasn't a wrestling match. It was a weapon spot fest.
What if I told you guys that Dynamite was 2/3 of a show?
Ooh.
So
like the 10-man was
stupid, pointless, didn't belong.
Yeah, and then the fucking ladder match was an overbooked mess.
It was an overbooked mess because it felt like they didn't have enough time. And it's another one of those scenarios where like you didn't need Ty Conti, you didn't need Paige Van Zant, you didn't need Dan Lambert. Honestly, you don't need either of these guys. You need to re-establish that title as something, because right now it's meaningless. Their problem is that, I've said this how many times now, the world title doesn't feel like anything of importance. There are some good matches that Paige has put on, but like that title isn't in your thought process. The TNT title has now gotten marred by weird sophomoric stuff with Sammy and Ty, and this thing with Sky and Lambert, where they're pretty much trying to do the plug and play, is what it feels like, of what they were going to do with Cody and Brandy, and they haven't pivoted away from. And the tag team titles are on a team that I also don't think, one, are good on the mic. and also too, like, just really haven't gotten it done. So like 3 of your biggest titles are tied up. You can make the case that Thunder Rosa as your women's champion is great. We like Jade Cargill; she does a great job. But like 3 of your titles, and some would argue your 3 biggest titles, or 2 of the biggest titles and the biggest secondary title, there's no juice behind it. There are other storylines with no titles, tied to them that are more interesting that you're tuning in for. That's kind of where they're at right now. That's why they need to re-legitimize that title. Honestly, they need to put the main belt on Punk. Yeah. They're going to have to. I don't think they have a choice at this point. And those tag titles, you have to think, are either going to be off of the hell they call it? Jurassic Express. I always forget because they don't call them anymore since Marco Stunt isn't out running around bouncing off the ropes. But like, I feel like we're about to see another one of those big changes. We're going to see a bunch of belts change hands over the next like 6 weeks. And honestly, it's overdue.
You're going to see Christian turning heel here in a couple weeks. You can kind of see the heel turn coming in the promo that he did with Jungle Boy, where he told Jungle Boy, he was like, put that championship around your shoulder like it means something.
Mm-hmm. So here's what I was talking about. Dynamite is 2/3 of a complete show. So the reason it looks that way is Tony is not booking a 2-hour show and then a 1-hour show. He's booking a 3-hour show and taking the first 2/3 of it, putting it on Wednesday nights, and putting the other third, which is generally strong and a little bit more action paced and whatnot, albeit sometimes a mess. He's putting that on Friday nights because that's how they tape the show. So I think the problem is if they were to pull one match out of Rampage and one match out of Dynamite, you could slow things down a little bit and have stuff just go that much better. Like, let's take the Dax and Cash match. That match didn't actually have a reason that it should have worked other than those guys are good workers. There's no story behind it. There's no dissension amongst the team other than these guys love Owen Hart. They both want to be in it. Personally, I kind of would have made that a second round match. I understand why you put it in the first, because you see both of those guys in it. You're like, neither one of them is going to the end, so I get that. But I would have liked the drama of the build to get to those guys. And CM Punk did great on commentary on that match, by the way. He's not so good in certain fast-paced matches, but he was really good in that match because it was very much on the like, well, why did he do that? Why did he do a tombstone? That's his teammate. He doesn't he shouldn't be wanting to hurt him. And then they did a great job storytelling at the end when he didn't get put into the figure 4.
Sharpshooter.
Right.
Sharpshooter. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Fantastic storytelling in the match. And it worked because of the guys that were there. And maybe that's what you need more of, is to divvy up that pacing, because a lot of the time it gets past that point. We feel like we get the one really slow burn match. They did it last week too. CM Punk and Dustin to kick off the show. Another kind of a slow burn storytelling match. And then it's just.
No, what you mean to say is a wrestling match. They kick the show off.
It doesn't even have to be a wrestling match though.
Oh no, hold on. Because they kick off every show with a wrestling match. That's why the opening match is always so great. You know, your Dustins, your Punks. They open up the show with Punk and damn near anyone. It's going to be a wrestling match, which is what you need to open up your program with. That, or you open that shit with some fucking insane off-the-wall bullshit match. Like, in my opinion, when you do this trios match between House of Black and Death Triangle, that's a match to kick off a card.
Yes.
That match opens the show because that is just going to be insane bullshit.
I would say that, but I want that to be the main event. But I want them to have time to be the main event. That is now, if you wanted to say that's a pay-per-view kickoff match, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because if that match happens on TV, it's dumb. You have 6 men, you have 3 men on each side. Each man can go up against each other once 3 times. That's 27 possible matches you can do leading up to a pay-per-view. There's absolutely no reason to give away a big 6-man tag like that on TV. My opinion. Absolutely. That match opens a pay-per-view.
So let's just run this down, because they've given us, so we have the card for Rampage. So take what you know happened tonight. Then we have Joe versus Trent.
That's gonna fuck.
Swerve versus Darby. Colton Gunn versus Keith Lee, which should be 5
minutes.
minutes at most. And then a 6-woman between Jade, Red Velvet, Kira, and then Willow, Trisha Dora, and Sky Blue. Okay.
That'll
that
go
should
5
be your
minutes.
that should be your second. That should be your second match on the show. If we were to book this outright, that should be your second match. But then we also have Hook and Danhausen with a confrontation in there. So now you've given me 4 matches plus a spot to go in on an hour show. And we already know, based on commercials and everything, we're only going to get 44 minutes of time.
Did you see
to
that
put all that in?
Did you see that last week? They cut the, according to someone in the audience, the Daniel Garcia Eddie Kingston match was 22 minutes live, and on TV they only showed 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So it also heavily edits the match for us. Like, if I want to see the exact same match they're showing live, that's what this shit's for.
I don't know if I want to watch a 22-minute Eddie Kingston match. I love Eddie Kingston, but I don't need 22 minutes in a match.
Whatever, fuck the both of you. But what I'm saying is I want, like, give me the original format. Give me 5 matches on fucking Dynamite. Give me 3 matches on Rampage. You can have a promo segment in there for each thing. The beauty of having a roster as deep as AEW is that no one needs to be on TV every single week. No one. None of your champions. Like,
that is wrong. That's their problem. That is their exact problem.
Like, I don't need to see Punk every week.
I couldn't disagree with you more. That's part of the problem. That's part of why there's such a disconnected feeling right now around Hangman Adam Page as champion, around Jurassic Express as champion. You can make the case around Sammy or Scorpio as champion. When Kenny Omega was champ, when Jon Moxley was champ, when Chris Jericho was champ, I understand that the dynamic of the roster was different because the roster in a lot of cases was smaller. But you had Kenny crossing over into multiple promotions, right? You had Kenny on TV or Don Callis, both of them, or some of the associated members. That was a consistent arc on the show, and you don't have it right now. Part of the reason that you're seeing so many added matches is because inevitably you're going to have bad morale as a company if you're only featuring enough people to put on 5 matches on your 2-hour show and 3 matches on your 1-hour show. A lot of these people, while I'm sure they're grateful to have contracts and they're grateful to work in the industry, they did not sign a contract to go work on Dark. They didn't sign up to go work on a YouTube show. And that's like part of the problem that I think they're just running into is the roster is too big. Like right now, look at what they're trying to do this, for Rampage. That's definitely not happening tonight. Like, look what they're doing there and look what they're doing for Dynamite next week. They're rolling out the ROH titles, which makes sense from the standpoint of if you're trying to secure a TV deal or if you're going to get the streaming deal, like if HBO Max is going to be a thing and ROH is going to be streaming on HBO Max, you want to get the ROH brand into more of the mainstream. The argument is that, I don't know, like how many people that watch AEW were unaware of what ROH was. It's not the same thing as if WWE brought ROH in, right? Like it's not the same. You're not exposing, whether you want to call them casual fans or like the mainstream wrestling fans, you're not really exposing a new group. I think you're just hoping that you're going to fully kind of embrace the idea of like, all right, all of our fans are going to be aware of the history of these belts. I do want to say really quick while I'm saying ROH, they've done a terrible, and I mean terrible, terrible, terrible job of leveraging what they should be doing with every ROH package. Any title match that you see, anything that references a match that has previously been fought, any title reign that had been held by any of the competitors that had been in ROH, you should be showing archival footage of their matches. Like when Samoa Joe's getting ready to defend a title, I want to see Samoa Joe footage from his ROH days. I don't know why we haven't gotten to that point yet. I can't imagine it's because the video library is tied up. It's just, to me, there are so many people that you need to please in this situation. You have this stacked roster, this loaded roster. You don't have enough TV time, and YouTube doesn't count for a lot of these talents. I think that's why you're seeing what you're seeing, but it's also part of the problem. It's part of the problem with why these championship reigns don't feel like anything. You need people on TV every week, at least one. Imagine if SmackDown said, we're going to see Roman Reigns once every 5 weeks, twice every 6 weeks. That doesn't work, and you know it doesn't work.
Hold on, because I actually have a very unpopular opinion about that. I think Brock's first Universal Championship run, where he wasn't on TV every week, was the best Universal title run up until Roman. I loved that the belt felt like a special attraction. Now, granted, I think at that time they had the secondary, like they had the WWE title, which was being defended by like AJ Styles or whomever. But I love that, like, there was a title you didn't see every week. Now, granted,
was it because Brock held it?
Maybe it was because
that's
Brock
part of it.
held
And Brock was established. He'd been established there. He'd been established in UFC. I agree about that was a special feeling. But Hangman to the AEW fans is special, right? Like,
well,
you cheered the rise.
Yeah.
You've
So
kind of
right
buried him
now,
at the top.
for anyone that didn't know, Paige wasn't on this show tonight because of COVID. He has COVID-19 right now. That's why he wasn't there. According to Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful.com, he said that the show was changed up a lot tonight because of that reason, because they were going to have a confrontation between Punk and Paige. So I agree with that, like, where Paige was, where he should have been on TV every week at the beginning of his title run, and he wasn't. He was just in that month and a half feud with Bryan Danielson, to where neither of them were on TV because Bryan Danielson refused to wrestle until he got his title match. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on both sides. Like, I understand having your champion should be on TV every week, whether it be on Dynamite or Rampage. I think Rampage would work better if it was 2 hours, because then you could have 10 matches a week. You could have as many promo segments as you possibly could. You could have 2 champions work 1 week on Dynamite and then 2 champions or whatsoever. Jade Cargill's the TBS champion. I feel like that title should be defended on TBS, not Rampage. And I feel like the TNT title should be defended on Rampage and not Dynamite. Run this ladder match on fucking Friday, you might see some fucking numbers. Because as much as I'm excited for Samoa Joe and Trent, that's not a pay-per-view. That's not a main event for Rampage. You should be showcasing that TNT title ladder match, to where you could have had the Philly Street Fight be the main event here, and you could have done something else in the middle of the show.
Talking about the Ring of Honor thing for next week, the Deonna Purrazzo Mercedes Martinez match. So if the contract's right, then Mercedes Martinez is an AEW wrestler essentially on loan to Ring of Honor, correct?
Correct.
And Deonna Purrazzo is an Impact wrestler on loan to, thanks Adam, on loan to AEW or Ring of Honor, I guess in this case, for her title match. If you have access to Deonna Purrazzo, I would much rather you use that access of Deonna Purrazzo for pay-per-view purposes. And maybe that's me because she having the Impact exposure, because a lot of this is exposure, is more important than facing Mercedes Martinez for an interim title, which Deonna Purrazzo is going to win because she's the bigger name in this case. The women's division for Impact is such a strong point. I'd like to showcase that more. Okay, hold on a second. I'll be there.
Too.
Thanks. I'm going to step away for a minute and handle my child. But
I got you.
So
that was cute.
I don't know if you saw this or not. I was taking a look at Wrestlenomics just to see like last week's show. Last week was not the 7:00 show. Last week's Rampage, since we're talking about Rampage, was the Cole versus Ishii. Danhausen showing up to face down Hook, Lance Archer, Serpentico, Tony Nese, Garcia Kingston, and then what was the final thing? It was Cargill versus Shafir, right?
Yeah.
So you started with Cole. It's 565,000 viewers, and then the next segment where it was some of the goofy stuff, squash match, Garcia, Kingston, you lost like 50,000. And then you got into a bunch of like promos, and the beginning of or no, it was the Mark Henry segment. You were down to 480, and then it bounced up by 30,000 when the women's match started.
Because
So it's
Cargill's
like, all
fucking
right,
money.
yeah, and you look at it and you go, all right, well, you start off with just over 500,000. It rebounded in that final segment, but like, can you make the case that maybe the Cole and Ishii match didn't do it for the casual viewer who might switch over from SmackDown? I don't know. But if you look at like last week's Dynamite was all over the place, right? Like Punk and Dustin Rhodes start the show, 977,000 viewers. The last 8 minutes of that match, so when people are channel surfing or like, all right, what's going on Dynamite, or somebody says, yo, CM Punk's wrestling, shoots up 12,000. You then go to the Undisputed Elite and you lose, Clint, 74,000 viewers for that match, which to me is indicative, maybe, of that group not landing, the comedic stuff not landing. And by the way, that was one of the lowest rated segments, and that also happened to be when they made the announcement about the New Japan show. So I guess in a very long-winded way here, feels like if you look at least last week's shows, the things that tend to hit well with this company are the things that they led this first hour with. It's the hard-hitting stuff. It's the wrestling action. And even if you're somebody who likes, you know, what we'd call like the well-balanced show, the one that kind of embraces some of the hilarity, it's kind of hard to dispute the fact that like it seems as though people are more interested in that sports-oriented product they were promised when this company was first founded and first announced. And maybe some of the goofy stuff just doesn't land. Maybe it did in New Japan. Maybe it did in ROH. But it's not landing here. At least it's not landing in the way that I think they would hope it would. They should at least be able to keep that number. They shouldn't see this habitual drop, especially when it's, you know, a group that you're trying to build around with Cole and O'Reilly and Fish.
I think the problem with Rampage is that it's taped, and that by midnight tonight, the results for Rampage will be posted.
Yeah.
So it gives me no reason to tune in live. I can just tune in. I can just watch it the next day because I already know the results.
It takes
but when
the
they're
surprise
live,
away.
yeah. But when it's live, I tune in because I'm just like, I don't know the fucking results. I want to watch this shit live. There's no one who spoiled it for me yet.
The problem too is that it's a 10 o'clock show, and you're obviously faced with a conundrum, right? I'm going to try to go back and see if I can dig up what the numbers were from the 7 o'clock show the week before on Good Friday, but that's not exactly a great show to probably compare things to because, again, it was Good Friday. But like, the 10 o'clock hour is such a difficult one to field a competent show and one that people are going to watch. And I think that like that 550,000-ish range is about where that's going to max out at. The question becomes, does this merger maybe put a little bit of fire on perhaps expanding to 2 hours? Do they look to make Rampage an hour earlier? Do they look to try the 7 o'clock? Do you try to do what's effectively a lead into SmackDown? I have to imagine that at least from a wrestling fan standpoint, a 7 o'clock show should go over well. And I know that nobody wants to be seen as the lead-in for the bigger show, but SmackDown is dwarfing them in every possible way. It's also on Fox, right? Like, it's a big difference versus TBS or TNT. But like, to me, if you're trying to grow your show, you need to have it at an hour that people are actually watching TV. And if we, as wrestling fans, especially as AEW fans, look at it and say, I don't need to watch this at 10 o'clock. I'll watch it on DVR, or I'll check out the highlights on YouTube. Well, where are all those casual fans? Where are all those crossover fans? Where are those fans that you thought you were going to be able to pull out of that SmackDown audience to then flip the channel for another hour of wrestling? I think the numbers have kind of shown that, like, it ain't happening. And it probably isn't going to happen.
So here's the thing, not to cut you off. It's the thing you see on Monday Night Raw every week. Monday Night Raw is a 3-hour show. And you see a dramatic drop-off in viewership after that second hour is over. They're going into the third hour. Like, to me, the most important match on Raw is the match that's going to finish up the second hour. Because in that third hour, you're losing people. You lose me every single fucking Monday after fucking 10. I'm an old man. I like to be Like doing this at 10 o'clock, it's a little tiring, but I love doing it.
So I pulled the ratings that Russ was
has
talking about.
Russ has already been going over them.
I thought you were looking to pull the ones. I was just saying I pulled them
from the 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so the 7 o'clock show drew 482,000, and then last week's Rampage, which was taped, drew 518,000. So it was higher. Now, like you said, though, being on a Good Friday show, you kind of start to.
There's no getting around that.
It's not on a. Here's the thing: it's not on a good channel at a good night. It's just when you have a 10 o'clock show on TNT, and then they broadcast NBA playoffs as well, and you just. I don't know about you guys, but if I watch a certain TV channel for some long time, and maybe it's just me, if I watch the same TV channel for long enough, I get burnt out of just that TV channel because I see the same commercials over and over and over again, and I want to move to a new channel. The only TV channel that I don't do that with is Food Network, and it's because I'm a fat ass. So you can show me the same Guy's Grocery Games commercial a million times. Even if I've seen the episode, I'm still going to watch the shit because I want to see how this
Guy Fieri's he's an American treasure.
Yeah, it's a weird place for a show. I feel like Friday night is not a good thing for Rampage.
I feel it'd be better like in a Sunday night heat position.
Ooh.
Compared to Friday night at 10, Sunday at 7.
Put it on Tuesdays, run it up against NXT.
They're afraid of, I mean, that's true. They're afraid of the NFL, as anybody should be. And when the NFL comes back around and Sunday Night Football is the thing, you're going to get murdered. You're going to get slaughtered. I mean, it might actually be the worst possible business move you could make. So,
well, that leads into another question is, I guess we're going to really, I wonder what it was like. So a lot of college football has been moving stuff to Friday nights, especially Big 10 and some Big 12 games have been moving to Friday nights. What's the impact that has on Rampage? Because that's the same
impact it has every Monday on Raw when there's Monday Night Football.
Well, see, I don't that's different though, because we're talking like Illinois versus a MAC team. It's not like neither one of the schools has a giant fan base. But last year you had MSU play on a Friday night. MSU's got a decent sized fan base. They're not world beaters by any means, but I would say that's a mid-major, a mid-level fan base for a college program.
We talk too much.
Penn State played on a Friday last year.
What I'm saying is people don't give a fuck what college game is on. They just want to watch college football. You're going to give them football on a Friday night, a choice between football and wrestling on a Friday night. SmackDown's going to take a hit and Rampage is going to take a hit.
Yeah, you're right. I watched Colorado versus Hawaii at like 12:15 on
I'm not
Sunday
a football
morning.
fan, but I understand how college football fans
Clearly you're not Taco.
No, I'm not. I play fantasy with you guys every year because you fucking make me. I don't take it serious, and somehow I beat
you. The fucking kicker, and he finished second.
3 kickers.
Bullshit.
3 kickers in the first fucking 4 rounds.
I fucking hate this guy.
You still lose. People love football. Football is bigger than wrestling. It is. WWE can post all these statistics about how much WrestleMania was talked about, but that's over 2 nights. You barely beat the Super Bowl, which runs for 1 night over your 2 nights of WrestleMania.
They neglected to continue or to count all of the stuff in the lead up to the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, you beat me this year. I honestly thought about benching my entire roster in the final game, but I was told I would be castrated if I did that. So,
guys,
I hate football.
I feel like this is my fault.
Why is it your fault? I love football.
No, not that. I feel like the first time I came on the show with you guys, there was a lot of positivity around AEW.
There was.
And at some point, maybe the second time I came on, I said, good stuff. There's good stuff here. There's a reason to feel good about this company. But there's also some issues. And it feels like...
Do you want positivity?
Well, hold on. Hold on, you. I tell you on your own show. Like, a lot of the stuff hasn't gotten addressed. Right? Like, I feel and in some ways you can argue that a lot of the fatal flaws that the company had out of the gates that were the thing that maybe held it back initially have just been exacerbated. And the only way to fix them is for Captain ADHD to take some Ritalin, or for a number of these 30 plus year guys in the business to like shake him and hope that something gets through. Because the kind of booking that was making Rampage so frantic, where we said a few weeks, you know, it's great, there's a lot of action, but you can't breathe. He's now brought that to Dynamite. And like when Clint said initially that like he used to like that 5-match setup, I feel exhausted mentally after watching Dynamite now, where I used to feel really excited and like can't wait for next week. It just feels, it's not like a negative wearing down like if you're watching Raw, but it's I didn't have time to process any of that. And then you come back to it the next day and you like read a recap or you read a review and you just go, man, I forgot that half of that stuff happened, because you're just not given the time to digest what you've seen. I think ultimately it's hurting the product. I think that's why you're not seeing the audience growing.
AEW is not a wrestling company. They're a t-shirt company.
Oof.
That is a pretty sick t-shirt you have on.
Like I'm on ProWrestlingTees.com, which is the website they sell through. Their top selling items are an exclusive Ruby Soho shirt. So, but Danhausen, FTR, BCC, CM Punk, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa. Those are the people you see on TV consistently every single week. They're a t-shirt company. CM Punk is going to win that belt because, one, Hangman's getting stale as a babyface. I love Hangman. Don't get me wrong. He's the best babyface in the business, in my opinion. Who you can answer in a second who, but it's time for Punk to win the belt because I feel the company is going to do better with a legitimate, established superstar, like a wrestler like Punk is your world champion. I think. Hold on. You stop doing the whistle. 1 second. I think you need to get the tag belts off Jurassic Express right away. You know what? I don't hate the idea of Starks and Hobbes taking the belts off them. I'm cool with that. That's great.
Starks and Hobbes against Swerve and Keith Lee was the
tag
thing
belts?
that nobody, it's a thing that I don't think anybody saw coming. I don't think it's a thing that anybody would have dreamt up a few months ago, but you could do something with that, especially since it looks like so many of the teams that we thought were going to be tag team contenders are very clearly becoming established in this trios division, which is also interesting.
And I was looking at their standings, and Mox and Danielson are in the top 5 tag teams right now. They're number 4. FTR is number 1. Starks and Hobbes are 3. Ethan, I'm sorry I cut you off. I was trying to finish off my.
Oh no, you're fine. It leads into the Hangman thing. So what if Kenny's not ready to come back? And we're not talking about the New Japan show. Kenny's not ready to come back. Hangman steps in as the third guy with the Bucks.
I don't think it's going to happen.
There's your third guy for that. So you have four clear-cut trios teams at that point. You have Death Triangle, you have House of Black, you have Red Dragon, and then you have the Elite, or whatever you want to call them at that point.
So you know how you and I play GM mode, and when you try to do another match, you would say the rivalry is stale, right? Yeah. Cole and Paige is stale.
I'm not talking about Cole, and I'm not talking about specifically Cole and Paige. They need a third guy for a trios thing, and Paige fits that bill. And you need to get the Young Bucks away from Adam Cole somehow.
I'd rather see Jay White step in.
I think they're just going to tread water for a while until Kenny's ready to come back. You'll see Bucks and FTR. You'll see probably at some point Santana and Ortiz in the tag team mix. I don't think you're going to see.
Punk and FTR would make a great trio. That would be fucking fun. They're not going to win any belts, but I think they'd be a very, very fun.
I don't think FTR needs to be in the trios.
I don't either.
They work so well as themselves.
Well, you're going to have to fill out this tournament, and I don't think you can do that just based off 4 teams. Me personally, I like it if a team has to win 3 matches at the minimum to win a belt. So 8 teams minimum.
Oh, guys, the Varsity Blondes and Dante Martin. That's a trio.
Internal screaming.
I was going to say that's a screenshot. That's a screenshot for when you post this on the Facebook tomorrow.
Yeah, that's an internal screaming thing. I just look
I'm
at
just
so I
gonna
look at
dig
the
my
guys
finger
that are
right in my
teams,
fucking eye.
and I want to fall in love with the trios idea. I want to, but I can only find 4 to 5 teams to put in it that don't seem haphazardly put together, because you have established tag teams like the Acclaimed and like Butcher and the Blade, and even though they're not going to win anything, they would be a team that's in a tag team tournament because they're a team. Private Party, guys like that. You're going to have a first round loss with guys like the Best Friends, like Chuck and Trent. It's which truthfully, I don't even think would be the good one. If you want to put a tag team together in the tournament, put Trent and Rocky in there, because they're actually a legitimate threat to do something more than just be a comedy act. Trent's a different wrestler when he wrestles with Rocky Romero.
We also forgot there's the Gun Club, and there's also BCC. So there's 6 trios right there.
Yeah, I don't count the Gun Club. I mean, I know they are, but I look at Billy Gunn as one of those guys that needs to shake Tony Khan. I look at Dustin Rhodes as one of those guys who needs to shake Tony Khan. I look at William Regal as the guy to get that point across.
It also feels like a lot of the trios that we're naming are tagged, like you're potentially going to water down your tag team division to try to force this trios thing to happen.
I don't think so. I think there's enough stables.
If you're talking about trying to like siphon off the Bucks and maybe with Omega, and you're going to siphon off Cole and Red Dragon, and you're going to siphon off Moxley and Danielson just for the sake of having you to go along with them, that's a pretty decent number of stars that you're talking about.
Need to include them in the trios. If I'm being honest with you, I think get Adam Page and Red Dragon in there, but I don't think you need to put Kenny Omega and the Bucks in there. I think the Bucks are well established as their own tag team.
I don't want BCC in a trios match. I think they work great as a collective, but they don't necessarily need to be the trios team. I see what they're doing now is they're putting Yuta into these matches and giving him these great spots without exposing him. Because dude's been wrestling for, I think, 6 years now, maybe 8, maybe longer. Fuck, I don't know. So he's still green television wise, but you're building him as a credible threat because he's wrestling alongside these guys, and he looks better and better week in and week out. He finally has the look. He's getting like the confidence factor to it, and thank God he dropped those piped tights, man. The blood splatter tights are where it's at for him.
They're great.
His pop was big tonight. Like, he looks, I don't know if you guys have noticed this. He's slightly tanner, which maybe it's just the lighting in the arena. He looks bigger when he's with those guys, and it's not like a size thing. He just carries himself better.
I want to see them squash everyone. But I think if you're doing trios titles, I think you already have your 2 people in your 2 teams in the finals already. I think it needs to be Death Triangle and House of Black in the finals. I don't think you need main event talent treading around the trios titles. Maybe you can do Kenny and the Bucks winning them like a year, maybe a year and a half down the line, but not immediately. Get them on an established trio like Death Triangle or House of Black, and let them carry the belts and have really, really good trios matches, because that's probably my favorite match thing. As you'll see in our list later that we've made up, we're doing a list at the end of this.
I don't mean to step in on this, but we got to look at shelf life on these guys. Kenny's getting up there. The Bucks are getting up there. Like, when we do this fantasy booking thing where we go a year down the road, how much more do these guys have left to go on a consistent basis? Now, the nice thing about AEW is you're not running these house shows. So these guys are getting less miles on their body because they can wrestle when they want to, essentially, as opposed to you're on the road 4 to 5 days a week. Yeah. But still, Father Time is the ultimate. There's literally one man in the history of everything that's beat Father Time, and it's Tom Brady. That's it. And that's because he sold his soul to Giselle, and she in turn sold it to Shakira and whatever other Southern American Latin goddesses that there is. But
by God, let me just point out that she has been very Americanized here, Ethan. Very Americanized.
Get JR
I'm sure she is, but when she's worth 680 million and Tom Brady is worth about 45, I don't care. She wins. I don't actually know if those numbers are right either, by the way. I just know she's worth more money than he is.
Shut the fuck up!
Very fake news, Ethan. Very upsetting. Many people, they say Giselle, she's got a lot of money. And quite frankly, perhaps more money. Not a very nice guy. Having a drink while we're talking here. Not very nice. Not very nice. Can we get rid of him? Thank you. Believe me. Excuse me. And many people, believe me, they say, Russ, you need to be the booker. You got to go over, take over. Not Booker T. We love Booker T. Great guy. Five-time champion. Not AEW. WCW. A great company until Vince Russo. He killed it. And if it were up to me, I'd send him to China. But we can't. And so now we say, Tony Khan, Tony, nice guy. Not a very good booker. Not the booker of the year. Not my booker of the year. I don't know who votes for him. Very clearly, rigged election. Tony Khan. Should have been Nick Khan. Could have been Khan from Star Trek. I don't know who. But that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
It got so.
Shut the fuck up!
You almost had the accent with it. It's beautiful. Oh my god. Oh god, if I was Alec Baldwin, I could shoot somebody right now. Oh.
Your impressions are spot on.
I don't remember what even caused that.
I don't either.
Who cares?
Wow. Somehow we gained viewers during that.
Trump books AEW. Is that how they...
Oh my God. Is that who's going to be the general manager of our wrestling organization when we do this shit?
Well, when we go bankrupt, we'll know why.
I'm just going to have Russ come. I'm just going to send Russ the script and it say, just send me the audio of you saying this.
Tie Conti. We don't like tie Conti. We like winning. Ties are for soccer. Soccer's for losers. That's what they say. We want win Conti. Winning. Book it. Tony.
Gosh. Right up his alley, though. Got to import that one.
You okay?
He's got to be okay.
I am high as fuck. You are funny as fuck.
Speaking of positives here, while we're on it,
yeah, let's get to some positives.
We had Hook and Danhausen confrontation on Friday, which it leads into something else. Like, I'm excited for it because it's a goofball thing.
We met Danhausen last week.
Yeah, because it's a goofball thing. But we met Danhausen last week, and he's just a very nice guy.
Oh my God, let me find it, Russ. I don't think you've seen.
He's very nice, very evil. Why is he not on the show this week?
We couldn't book him. His appearance fee was way too
I
much.
froze up. Not gonna lie.
Oh, dude, he fangirled so hard.
Oh, I did.
So give me 1 second here.
Good day to you, Danhausen.
So I didn't pay for a photo, but
I saw Trevor did.
Our tech intern did.
To ruin the illusion here a little bit.
The guy over Trevor's shoulder. I like him.
Dude, okay. First off, that's beautiful. That guy animated everybody's childhood. He's one of the animators from Scooby-Doo and Tom and Jerry.
Where?
Yeah, the OG Scooby-Doo, 1969 Scooby-Doo. He's one of those guys. Anyway, to ruin the illusion here, I walk up and I go, so I heard that you were at the House of Truth house, and what year did you go through House of Truth? I fucked that up. And he's like 2013, and he hits me with no accent. He hits me with no voice, and I'm like, do I have to pay for the voice, or like what's the deal here? And he was just like, I don't know. I was like, I went through it 17 before I blew my knees out. And he's like, oh, cool. He's like, yeah, Paul was there. I'm like, yeah, Paul was there. Yeah. BS with him for a second. I'm like, well, I'm going to buy a shirt because I want to, which is like cool. He's like, hey,
you're
40.
making me.
All right. Well, he's like, hey, $40. And I was like, I wasn't planning on it, but here you go. Swipe it. Because it's actually a shirt. Yeah, of course it's a fucking shirt. I'm doing the exact same thing I did. Anyway, Danhausen's shorter than I am, so now it's ruined on the illusion, and I am not tall by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a solid 5'9". My wife is
talking
watching
about
this.
yourself for a second. So we also
He's drinking again, Clint. He's drinking.
We also met
He's
two
got
other
water.
wrestlers. We met two other wrestlers. This one might make you a little more jealous. This is my dad. So yeah, my dad met the Steiner brothers. He was super geeked. We went to that whole convention just so he could meet them. That was his first ever convention. And we met them in the first 5 minutes.
Literally walked through the door. They were right to the right. No line whatsoever.
No lines for shit. Yeah, the only lines there were for was to meet the band Twisted.
Were they wearing the Hall of Fame rings?
Pop that picture back up. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, he does. So he's got a pinky ring right there.
He's got it on
Looks
his
like Rick
pinky
has
ring.
his on. I can't see what Scott.
Scott probably pawned his already. Let's be honest. He runs a Shoney's. He's got to keep that bitch afloat somehow. Oh my god!
I am toasted.
Okay, so let's look for a positive out of Dynamite. All right, start at the beginning.
Cash and
First
Dax
match
was
of the night.
great.
Fantastic.
Loved
Again,
it.
Great.
when I sit back and I say, what do you need to do to make this thing more appealing to a larger swath of wrestling fans? This mythical force out there, this other like million people that watch SmackDown that don't watch your show. Dax and Cash was great.
Mm-hmm.
You need to listen to your fan base. I will guarantee you that rating number might be the highest of the night, maybe second highest. That match was great. FTR, incredibly great. Massively popular with the fan base. They've done a good job of turning them face, despite the fact that they're still tangentially affiliated with the Pinnacle. At some point, realistically, they should be the team to win the belts. If you were going to try to do an interesting thing here, maybe, I'm not saying I like this, but maybe you have Starks and Hobbes take the belts. They get into the Swerve and Keith Lee thing, and then May 26th, right? That's when it happens. 3-way tag team match. Those two teams plus FTR.
FTR wins.
Could be a lot of fun. FTR holds all the belts. They go full on belt collectors, one on each shoulder, one around the waist. Mm-hmm. To me, you want to elevate the tag team titles. You want to bring them back to what they should be. Put them on FTR. Let FTR have like a 6-month dominant reign. They're putting on great matches. At some point, hopefully, you can get the Briscoes in. You can give a trilogy of matches with the Young Bucks, where the Bucks have to earn their way back. Like they lose the first title match, then they have to earn their way back in. Maybe this is part of like rebuilding the Bucks as baby faces, right? Until Kenny comes back. And then like second or third match, there's a title swap, but you at some point here have to lean on somebody. And if you're not going to do it, I mean, if you do it with Punk, this comes back to you. If you like this idea of Punk saving FTR from MJF, and then you're going to end up getting MJF versus Punk for the belt at some point before the end of the year. Well, that's interesting. And FTR
that could be
your
all-out main event. That could be your all-out or full gear main event.
Here's the real question, though. We haven't had a transitional champion yet. Can you imagine the balls it would take to put the belt on Punk at Double or Nothing, and in his first title defense against MJF, he loses the belt?
I think that's just good storytelling.
It would be wild. Absolutely wild.
Oh, I want the belt on MJF. I feel like they're going to have to put it on him sooner than later before he cools off. So
I'm actually surprised that he hasn't cooled off more with this Wardlow thing. They're doing a great job with Wardlow. And if you wanted to, like, this comes back to something earlier too, the idea of like the sports entertainment aspect. If you compare like the Kingston and Jericho thing to like what MJF and Wardlow are, right? Because there's still a little bit of that nod and wink. You know, he's not really who employs him, and like MJF is very upset that another one of his paid guys lost. They execute that so well because MJF is such a believable shit heel, right? So, I disagree with that.
Just to read this, so anyone who's just listening, the problem there is that you got to build every story of everything for BTE that can align them going face. That seems like a lot.
That is totally predicated on the notion that if you are trying to grow this fan base, it actually runs counter to that. You should not have to watch BTE to have an idea of what's going on.
Right.
You should not have to watch Dark and Dark Elevation to know what's going on. You should not. That is not a reasonable expectation. If you were saying to me that you need that to understand SmackDown that has twice the audience, all right, maybe. But if you're a growing company, turning around and saying to people, go watch our YouTube show that has some squash matches and a bunch of people who aren't like ready for the big leagues, right? Or like go watch BTE, which is goofy, which by the way, doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's counter to the things that do well in the ratings. You can't have that be the expectation. I don't give a shit about BTE. All right.
Cole is not the same person on BTE that he is on TV. He is a completely different person.
That they can have that. That's fun.
That's not canon. Like BTE is not canon. In my
it's the same
opinion,
thing. Like it would be like arguing that everything that Sammy Guevara does has to make sense within his vlog, right? Like I don't watch Sammy's vlog. Are there like Easter eggs that we've missed out on about like this Scorpio thing? I don't know. Maybe if we did, then it's a really poor job of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So
I concur. I concur with
I say that respectfully, though. I respect the fact that this man waded into these waters.
For me, Dynamite can be fixed with changing the card around a little bit. I think if you swap a few matches on the card, it becomes more breathable. In my opinion, the ladder match should have kicked off the show, and FTR and Cash should have main evented. But in the same token, you want to kick it off with a good match, so they did just that.
I could have seen Cash and Dax being the end of the first hour. Have that be the one that is finishing up that first hour, leading into the second hour, pretty critical juncture of your show. That would have been a good spot for that. The ladder match, knowing what we know about it now and what it ended up becoming, could have been a big turnoff to viewers because there was so much schmozziness to it.
It was dumb. I don't want to get negative again. The positives of this show. Blackpool Combat Club keep looking great. Yuta looks great. Moxley looks great, and so does Danielson. Everyone in Blackpool Combat Club looks great. And Wardlow and Lance Archer was a nice big meat fest.
I was initially upset with that match, but then I wasn't. Because the problem with when you run these like Hoss matches is if you have a guy like Wardlow and you're trying to make him look utterly dominant, well, you put him in a Hoss match and he's not going to look dominant in theory, right? Like because you don't want to bury your other Hoss unless it's like you're putting him against Nick Camarado, who I like, but like you're putting him against a big guy that's also got this kind of reputation as a lower level guy, right? Mm-hmm. Archer got a lot of stuff in a good way that was also believable. And at the same time, Wardlow flexed out a whole bunch of stuff I don't think we've seen him do before. At least seen him do on Dynamite.
The
Hurricane off the top
was great.
Huge. The Swanton, huge.
A better Swanton than Jeff Hardy.
That's true. There's a third thing that he did in that match that I don't remember seeing him do on like a Dynamite. Again, if he did this on Dark Elevation, then like by all means.
It was the fucking step up he did. The step up Hurricane Karada. He did the one off the top rope and he did the one while he was running. That shit's fucking wild. Those two were great together.
Yep. It worked.
He kicked out of the fucking blackout. That was nuts to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also used the Moxley move to get out of the second blackout.
Yeah.
So
that match was fucking great.
AEW, one big gripe against AEW was always that they didn't do good big men matches. Like because they have them. They've got a couple of big guys now that can do matches. Your Hobbes, your Lee, your this. Next week's
they have the best Hoss roster on the planet right now. They have access to everyone. They have access to the New Japan hosses, AEW hosses, Ring of Honor hosses. Fucking Brian Cage, they're going to rebuild him back up in fucking Ring of Honor and send him right back to Dynamite as a fucking full-fledged
I would say that,
deal.
except for the fact that Brian Cage is like not big. Like he's a big dude, but he's not big. He's not
tall. He's girthy.
You put Brian Cage against Wardlow, Brian Cage is going to look like he's going to get dwarfed.
Do you remember the episode of SpongeBob where he's got the inflatable arms and he keeps blowing them up and they get veinier and veinier, but like SpongeBob is still SpongeBob's height?
Yeah.
That's Brian Cage.
Sure.
Brian Cage keeps filling out like this way with muscles and like can't put his arms down like little Ralphie or Ralphie's brother in A Christmas Story, right? He's like that, except very muscular. Good for him, but he's not that tall, so he doesn't look imposing. That's a problem. It's a whole other thing.
Brian Cage versus Adam Page is a good feud
with Christian Cage and special guest referee Diamond Dallas Page.
Oh, babe, you look gorgeous.
He says you look gorgeous. She says thank you.
Oh, no problem. I love
I agree. Russ, that's my wife. Sam, this is Russ. You can say hi. Sorry, I know we're derailing a podcast for a minute, but I don't think you guys have ever
derailing
said
a
hi
podcast?
live. Yeah, our entire podcast is that way.
So
let's get the whole family up here.
There you go.
Why not?
We're doing the victory lap here.
Yeah, apparently. Before we get to our five.
Oh, here, let me get my family.
Oh, is this is the thing that you guys texted me about?
Yes.
So can I?
Hey, I'm going to too, shithead.
I want to abstain from this top 5.
Okay.
Because I didn't have enough time. So can I serve as the judge between you two? Is that fair? Okay.
I think I got a pretty good top 5 list.
So here's my deal. I love having a favorite top 5 matches because they constantly change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
that can't be questioned either. That is a totally fair position to take.
No, like these
100%.
Like these aren't the best matches of all time. Like I don't have Taker Michaels on here. I don't have there's one match I want to have on here. That's probably my 6th. I don't have any Shawn Michaels on here whatsoever. No Undertaker, no Ric Flair. None of those people. That's not to say they don't put on the best matches of all time. They do, but they're just not my favorite matches. Which you'll kind of see a theme for my favorite matches when I go down them. Ethan, do you want me to start or do you want to start?
I'll start. Judy Bagwell on a forklift. These are not in any order, by the way. I'm just giving you 5 matches. Judy Bagwell on a forklift. There's a reason our podcast is named on a forklift. There's a reason we stand Judy Bagwell. There's a reason we stand Buff Bagwell. There's a reason we stand Rick Steiner and Chris Canyon. And it's because
and David Arquette. I stand David Arquette.
I do love
guys.
David Arquette. Yeah, what's up?
How did we not mention the MJF call out about next week? Every time I think of Canyon, I think of this guy.
The W. Morrissey.
Yeah, how about that?
That's pretty. Fantastic. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be another good hoss.
You can't teach that. That's going to be something. That is going to be something.
Which, by the way,
sorry.
While we're going through this top 5 list, people in the chat, put your top 5 in there. We'll flash them up on the screen. It's not like we're doing anything super important here.
What are the odds that you two come up with like one match that's the same?
We already talked about it. There was a chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that match is one.
I didn't put Judy Bagwell on a forklift on mine. That is number 1 in my heart. But I didn't put it on my list because talking about wrestling matches here.
I'm going to throw out one, even though I didn't do a list.
Go ahead.
The one that I struggled with, because it's not for the match. It's for what happens around the match and the intrigue leading into the match, and then what happens after that changes the entire landscape. Bash at the Beach, the Outsiders versus Sting and Luger and Savage. That, to me, maybe has to make a top 5 list because you go into that with the Outsiders, who's the third man, and then Hogan just undoes it all and sets off this insane war between WCW and WWF.
I think when you're talking like top 5 most important matches of all time, that's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Like
anyway, sorry.
Of a significance, 100% in the top 5.
Yeah.
But my 5th favorite match of all time is Tanaka versus Mike Awesome from One Night Stand 2005. I fucking love that match. It was the first time I ever saw them go at it. I didn't watch ECW growing up because never mind. But yeah, I got to see them go at it, and it made me go back and revisit their entire library. I was going to like FYE to buy old ECW DVDs because I was just dead set on watching these two fucking fight all the time. When the network popped up, that was the first match I went and watched. It was Tanaka versus Mike Awesome. It's like 12 minutes long. The fuck is it a fast-paced 12 minutes, and it does not stop. And Mike Awesome, rest in peace, man. You were phenomenal. You were well ahead of your time. And WCW should have treated you a hell of a lot better. First man to win a title in the Invasion. Fun fact. If any of you pick Invasion for a fucking topic, that will definitely be a question.
That's going to be after I win AEW trivia. The next one's just going to be the Invasion.
I'm aiming towards this.
The list I have for the final round is so long. It's so fucking... That one probably... It's either going to end real quick or go forever. And I think it's going to come down between you two.
What, the AEW final round?
Mm-hmm.
Who's participating in that match? Do we have a...
You two, Chris, and I'm working on a 4th.
Okay.
But we don't think it's going to be hard to find someone for AEW Trivia. We've had a few people reach out saying they want to do it already.
So I'm trying to get. So I've been in contact with a gentleman from Conan's podcast. He told me to get a hold of him. Not who you fucking think it is, Russ. I'm not getting Disco Inferno.
Aw.
Although I'm tempted. I am tempted. Yes, Adam, please.
Wait,
who's Adam?
why
This
have,
is LT.
LT.
Why have you ruled out Disco Inferno?
Fuck him. He's a piece
Missed
of shit.
opportunity. Missed
No,
opportunity.
no, listen. I've already had to talk this motherfucker out of having Marty Jannetty on here.
No, you
because I
didn't
said-
talk me out of it. I haven't got Marty Jannetty yet. When I do, we will have him.
I don't
and we
wanna
will be
be
the
known-
sole reason that
I
Dark Side of the
fear-
Ring or Dark Side of the Ring season 4 takes place is because we will have Marty Jannetty on this podcast, and then he is gonna go jump off of something like a fucking Ferris wheel that's set up in the parking lot of a high school or something that came out of a truck.
I fear you guys don't understand how ratings for podcasts work. If
No,
you
we
can
don't.
get Jannetty or you can get Disco Inferno, you just get them.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't want
Why
Disco
would you?
Inferno. I would rather have no viewers than have Disco Inferno on my podcast. Marty Jannetty, we would be infamous because I would just go on his Facebook feed and ask him questions about his Facebook feed. Like, Marty Jannetty, what do you believe is the age of consent? I would ruin that man's life because I would just do
no,
that.
You wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You might bring his life back to life. That man has no shame. I don't know if you've noticed this. Anyway,
We are
We're
trying
trying for the
so
lizard.
fucking
Yeah.
hard for the lizard. We are.
I know. So
Can you guys get
number
the
4,
Yeti?
Number 4 on my list.
No, I don't think
is
we
going
can
to
get
be
the Yeti.
Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis from 1996 Bash at the Beach.
That's in the 2K22 game, isn't it? Is that one of the playable matches early on? Am I
Think so.
crazy?
No, that's the Eddie Guerrero match.
Oh, it's the
Yeah,
Yeti.
I thought doesn't he talk about Psychosis in that? Am I nuts? Maybe I'm nuts.
He talks about him in the intro video, but the Halloween Havoc match is the first match in that.
Are you playing it, Russ?
I do have 2K22. I did GM
Why are
mode.
we not facing each other in GM mode?
I did GM mode. Is there a reason that it ends after one season? It's like 14 weeks. Why does it end?
You can set it to 50 weeks.
Yeah,
You can do a full
I
year.
won. By the way, I won the war.
I beat
I
Ethan.
he
I
did.
led SmackDown to a victory. 14 weeks.
Hey, do you want to tell him what your main event was for WrestleMania? That was
It was
built in 3 weeks.
It was a 3-week feud between Adam Cole and Kevin Nash.
I
For
just
the
I
Hell in
want
a
to
Cell title.
scream. I
Or the
want to
Hell-
scream. I want to scream. I signed a bunch of scrub wrestlers, and then I got them into like big feuds with Becky Lynch, and the one ended up becoming a star. What happened? What?
He's crying because there's this dude that looked like
MGK and he beat Kevin Nash.
He looked like an extra on SLC Punk. He beat Kevin Nash in the first match I put him against, and I'm like, "There's no fucking way this just happened." So then
they started a feud because of it.
It started a feud. It went all the way down, and the guy got ballsy. I was paying him like $10,000, and it goes, I'm gonna walk if I don't get 100,000. And I'm like, you're not getting a fucking 100,000. There's 3 weeks left in the thing, and I'm like, Adam Cole doesn't have a rivalry. Kevin Nash doesn't have one. We're making it happen, baby.
Anyways, my main event for WrestleMania was CM Punk versus Walter in a fucking Hell in a Cell match. Because I downloaded like 40 AEW wrestlers, and you can put them in a custom GM roster, so you can like draft them and shit. So I was having feuds like, I think I had Kenny Omega versus Damian Priest as a main event feud. I had 2 fucking jobbers open up the pay-per-view with an Extreme Rules match that did 4.5 stars.
Meltzer.
I fucking love GM mode. I keep going back to it. It's my favorite mode.
It is fun.
Because you get Kevin Nash versus Adam Cole in a Hell in a Cell match.
What's your next one, Clint?
Ilya Dragunov versus Walter for the UK title at TakeOver 36. In my opinion, the final match of Black and Gold NXT. What a beautiful match it is. Very violent, very graphic. I think the fact that this one happened in front of fans really added on to it, because you could hear the wincing of the crowd with every chop and every elbow and every fucking move they did looked like it fucking hurt. And for Ilya to get the win with a rear naked choke on Walter and making him tap out is a moment that I feel should have established Dragunov as the biggest fucking star in NXT. But you're just squandering him over in NXT UK, and then when you bring him over to NXT, you're going to change his fucking name. And that makes me sad.
My next match is Kenta Kobashi versus Misawa in 2003 in Pro Wrestling Noah. It's the 5th time he used the Burning Hammer out of the 7 that he used. And it's the best Misawa match that there is out of the best. It's the best Kobashi Misawa match, my opinion, anyway. I know that's a real deep cut for some people because they're going to be like, who the fuck are either one of those? But if you don't know what a Burning Hammer is, it's an inverted Death Valley driver. So
drop them on their neck and head.
Yeah. So basically, instead of being in a fireman's carry, like you would normally fireman's carry somebody and their back would be up and then you would do the roll into it. They are up there like a torture rack and then you do the Death Valley driver. There's a reason it was used 7 times and he won 6
every match with it. Nope, he was never kicked out of until Kota Ibushi kicked out of Brian Kendricks.
Yes, that's
fun fact. Kota Ibushi is the only person to kick out of a Burning Hammer and a One-Wing Angel.
Ooh, underrated match very early. And Kenta, not Kenta Kobashi, but Kenta, the Kenta we know, very early in his career, he faced Kenta Kobashi and he lost to a Burning Hammer as well. I think that was 2006.
Yeah. My number 3 is Johnny Gargano and Aleister Black from War Games. I don't know what it is about that match. It's just so beautifully told by them knowing each other's moves. When Aleister does that whole thing where he bounces off the second rope and does a moonsault and just sits that cross leg, and Gargano, instead of standing outside of the ring like a fucking idiot, runs inside, just boots him right in the face. Great storytelling. I love the part where he hit him with a black mass and then he caught him on the chest, picked him up by the chin and said, "I absolve you of your sins," and then hit him with another one for the win. Probably the most underrated NXT match ever. I don't think it gets talked about nearly enough. And I think it should get talked about more because the match everyone was talking over it involved Velveteen Dream. And who's that? I don't know. He doesn't exist.
If only we could watch stuff in a bubble. So
my number 2 is going to show that I can kind of watch stuff in a bubble.
Is this the Nancy Benoit match?
No,
it's Hulk Hogan. It's Hulk Hogan versus. Go ahead.
Neither of you have heard of this match.
So this is a hard one for me because I've gone back and forth on whether I actually like this match or whether I like want to never see this match again. And it's one of those ones that like I really do like the match, but I also never want to see it again. And that's Eddie versus JBL from Judgment Day 2004. Yeah, Eddie Guerrero passes
Never
out from
gone
blood
back.
loss.
Never gone back to that match.
Yeah, it's a very good match. It's very good, but it's a very violent match to watch. Just based on the amount of blood loss. It's not actually a particularly violent match when you sit down and watch it, like compared to what we're used to seeing now. But the storytelling there, and also JBL is just one of the best chicken shit heels for a dude who had like the size to be a dominant heel, but he just decided to be the chicken shit heel. He's really so. I guess I'm going to branch off and say this here. MJF has always got comparisons to Piper, but he's like an in shape JBL. Like,
I'll give you that one.
He's got the promo skills of Piper, but his character is much more reminiscent of JBL than of a Piper.
The character is, the in-ring work isn't.
No, he's way better in ring than
He's
JBL.
he's a better mat wrestler and obviously not as physically imposing. Not a bruiser.
No.
I could see the comparison in the character though.
Yeah, that's more so when I compare MJF to somebody, it's not the in-ring work. His in-ring work, actually, truthfully, it's kind of bland. But he gets over it by being that guy. He's actually more Ric Flair-ish in ring than he is anybody else.
Fast forward to 2040. MJF is sitting backstage playing cards. He looks to his right. He looks to his left. A young up-and-coming star asks for protection. MJF looks to his right. And there we see a man who's begun to get a little bit follically challenged. A little bit of a receding hairline. Like a LeBron James. It's Swerve Strickland. And he looks at the kid who asks for protection. He looks at MJF. He looks back and he says, "Damn." So
It's amazing. Swerve would be 46 at that point, I think, and MJF would be 43, and it's totally plausible. But there's got to be the door. Just the door stood up with nothing around it.
Yeah,
just the frame. Oh my god, I did love
that. Was such a great. That was so great.
Ding dong. Hello. My favorite use of a door in professional wrestling history is Bailey.
That was the original Forbidden Door.
Mm-hmm. For my number, holy shit! I think I have 6 matches here. Whoops.
Clinton can't count.
Nope, I was stoned when I wrote this list.
6.
Yep. Sorry, you're getting a 2. I'm not cutting either one of these. You're getting a 2 for on this one.
You only get 5.
Okay, so I'm taking Tanaka and.
Yep. Too late.
Nope.
The people can't hear 6 matches.
Well, I've already had to listen to Ethan talk about 7. So.
It's a fair point. I'll allow it.
Yep. So tied for number 2 is Stone Cold and Brett from WrestleMania 13. I think that is the most important match in WWE history. And then tied for that is a 6-man tag because they're my favorite thing. It is the Inner City Machine Guns. So Rich Swann and Ricochet with AR Fox taking on the Unbreakable fucking Steam Machines consisting of Brian Cage, Michael Elgin, and Kevin Steen.
Are you telling me that I didn't know about that match? I
think I watched it at your place.
Yes, because it's got AR Fox in it, who never got the TV time that he needed because the Inner City Machine Guns is so fucking good.
They killed AR
everything
Fox
that Dante Martin like has going for him right now was really reminiscent of those guys.
Mm-hmm. It's the best 6-man tag match I've ever watched. The only reason no one's ever seen it is because it's behind a paywall. You have to buy the DVD to fucking see it. It's All-Star Weekend night. It's All-Star Weekend 9, night 2. And if you want, buy the set. Buy night 1 and 2 because the night before you had AR Fox and Samurai Del Sol, who's Kalisto, versus the Inner City Machine Guns in one of the best tag team matches I've ever seen. If you're into flippy spot fest shit, it's great. And Ricochet back in the day in PWG was a fucking stud. So cocky and arrogant. I fucking loved it. Go ahead, E.
Bailey Sasha take over Brooklyn.
Fuck, what a good match.
I don't need to say anything else about that one.
Oh. Was that your number one?
Yes.
My number one is Shane McMahon versus Kurt Angle.
I
Their
fucking
street
knew it.
fight.
I fucking knew it.
My favorite match of all time.
Ethan, how do we boot him? Do we have a way? Do we have a way to boot him?
It's the best street fight in professional wrestling history.
I knew it was going to be on his list.
It's so violent and so real.
You just need to put Shane McMahon in some jean booty shorts, and it'll be pretty much like Sheeta versus Deeb.
I'm sorry. It's such a good fucking street fight. It's the match I go back to the most. There's two things I go back to the most in professional wrestling history. When I want to hear a good pop, I go back and I watch The Rock versus Mankind on the January 4th, 1999 Raw, where Mankind won the belt, because that's the best pop I've ever heard in my life. When I want to watch the most fun wrestling match I've ever seen, a match that scared me fucking shitless, Shane McMahon versus Kurt Angle, King of the Ring 2001.
You know why it scared you shitless? Is because Shane McMahon's not a wrestler.
Shane McMahon almost died in that fucking match.
And you should be ashamed of yourself for putting Shane McMahon anywhere near a top 5 list.
I hate it. I hate it. It's been my favorite.
Match.
It's been my favorite match as long as Ethan has known me.
Yeah, it has. I had another match, but I avoided it because I wasn't sure the current state of one of the guys that's in it, and that was Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate for the NXT UK Championship. It's a fantastic. What was it? 22 minutes long, and it was worth every. It did not feel like it. It was worth
Chicago too.
Yeah, it was. Man, first run of takeovers had some great ones, but no, the Sasha Bailey is my absolute favorite match of all time. It replaced, and that's one that won't change. It replaced Ricky versus Savage at Mania 3.
The first pay-per-view,
perfect wrestling match for me.
The first pay-per-view we ever watched together was Takeover Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
You were over at my house, and Tony had to come pick you up. You and Sam got drunk, and then I proceeded to stay up until 7 in the morning with Lance beating Dark Souls. Times were way different. Different times. Different times.
Yep.
On PS3. That should tell you how fucking long ago that was.
Wow. What a life. So, Russ, now that you have heard our top 5/6,
you win because he hates my number one.
Well, no, he's a fair, unbiased judge. Bring him up.
Bernie Sanders is here. We're going to say that everybody deserves an opportunity to win. We're going to hand out victories. We're going to do universal based income of the top 5 matches. Now you may be asking yourself, how do we give fair and equitable judging results to somebody who gives Shane McMahon the top spot? And that is a fair question. That is partially because Ethan, I believe it was Ethan, the man from Michigan, who said that he believed that Gargano deserved to be on the top, or one of the top matches. Gentlemen, can you please reveal to the people one more time your top 5? I need the lists again.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis, Bash of the Beach 96. Kenta Kobashi versus Misawa at Noah 2003. Judy Bagwell on a forklift. that's what's gonna kill me. Eddie Guerrero versus JBL at Judgment Day 2004, and Bailey Sasha take over Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. Clint.
Ilya Dragunov versus Walter at TakeOver 36. Johnny Gargano versus Aleister Black at War Games 2018, I believe it was. 2019, maybe. Stone Cold versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. Inner City Machine Guns and AR Fox versus the Unbreakable fucking Steam Machines. Kurt Angle versus Shane McMahon at King of the Ring 2004.
You guys didn't make this easy, did you? No, you didn't. Because for every Judy Bagwell match and for every Noah, you said Noah match?
Yeah,
Noah built an ark, a very big, beautiful ark, but not a wrestling company.
Clint goes with Shane McMahon up top. Clint also doesn't put a women's match in his top 5. Does that make him a sexist? If I vote for Clint, does that make me a sexist? Then again, Ethan picked the Judy Bagwell on a forklift match, which one could say they were objectifying Judy Bagwell, who could have competed in the match and instead was put on a forklift. I'm in a very bad position here, guys. You put me in a bad spot.
Getting some fucking chocolate. The anxiety's killing me.
I have to go. I have to go with my heart. And I think that, Clint picking Stone Cold and Bret Hart was a great call. And honestly, it got him over the finish line. However, he got over the finish line second. Because when you put a Rey Mysterio Psychosis match and you get little Eddie Guerrero love, can't go against it. Can't go against it. Ethan, despite every attempt, despite everything you've done and you've subjected us to, you've done it. You've won.
Also, I sent you that Kobashi match on Facebook.
Whatever. I got Swiss cake rolls.
That makes you the winner.
It does, doesn't it?
There's my snack corner of shame.
Okay, I want to ask this though. You guys, I would say, watch a lot of things that many people don't, or
correct.
Watch a lot of things and have very good recall on a lot of things.
Unfortunately,
so Omega's not on either of your lists, and
right.
There is obviously that large contingent of people right now who are AEW or ROH or New Japan fans who would argue that Kenny Omega has to not only be on the list, but maybe deserves 2 matches on the list. Like, how do none of the matches with Okada end up on there? What do you say to those people who would maybe question, and maybe rightfully so? I'm not saying that they would be right, but there are some people who would argue that Kenny Omega belongs on this list somewhere.
Listen, Kenny Omega is in
maybe
my top...
over a Shane McMahon.
Kenny Omega is in my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. When I say my favorite matches, it's the matches I go back and revisit often. As much as I love Kenny Omega, all of his matches are long and exhausting. They're not a quick 12-minute match like Tanaka versus Mike Awesome. I like my matches short and violent. Ilya Dragunov versus Walter was like 20 minutes. Same thing with Johnny Gargano and Aleister Black.
This is going to kill. So, like, the only Kenny Omega match that I really go back and do anything but hit a highlights clip on is the blow up doll match. If I want to show somebody something, like, or when he wrestled a mop, or when he wrestled the little girl, like, those are the Kenny Omega matches I show people only because of weird stuff like that. Now, the other thing that you might ask yourself is, why were there no AEW matches on that list? And it's because I didn't say Pac and Orange Cassidy, which is weird because, once again, that's a slight comedy aspect to it. But I also think it's Orange Cassidy's best match. And I do think it's actually one of Pac's best matches by himself, not as a tag team. His tag team work is much better than he is on a single. But like Clint said, so Kenny Omega is a fantastic wrestler, but these were our favorite matches, not necessarily the best matches in the world. And sometimes our favorites don't have to be the best.
What do I think is the best wrestling match of all time? It's Okada Omega 4. Without question, to me. That's the best professional wrestling match of all time. What do I think is the best WWE match of all time? It's Bret Hart versus Steve Austin.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say Shane McMahon street fight. I was about to fucking come through this computer at you.
Like, Shane McMahon and Kurt Angle doesn't even crack the top 25 best matches in WWE history, but it's my favorite. It's a fun match to go back and watch.
I think TLC 2 is a better match.
Yeah, like this right here. These matches, like the matches between Undertaker and Mankind, like everyone thinks the Hell in a Cell match is long. Hell in a Cell match is like 20 fucking minutes.
I'm going to say something.
I have a really hot take, and I don't know, Ethan, this might be where you're going. I don't go back and watch full matches. I don't find that as comforting. What I'm hearing here is, from Clint at least, is he likes the comfort food, right? Like these matches are effectively comfort food for him. And for me, I'm a spot guy. I like to fast forward through down parts of matches and get to the big moments. Like, do I want to go out of my way to go watch The Undertaker throw Mankind off Hell in a Cell? I'll go watch that clip. Or I'll pull up the match and watch some of the other insane spots in that match. Do I feel the need or the desire to sit down and watch all 20 odd minutes of it? No. I think that's for a lot of matches too. Like I brought up the match where Hogan shows up at the end and turns heel. Do I really want to go back and watch the Outsiders tussle with Lex Luger, in the initial stages before he gets run off? No, probably not. But it's those moments. Maybe that's the kind of wrestling fan I ultimately become. I like watching AEW pay-per-views live, but I don't feel the need or the desire to go back months later and to watch matches through in their entirety. I just don't. I feel like the build that you feel the first time you watch a match, I don't necessarily get that same excitement or thrill watching it a second time.
Like I'll give you that point. Like there's certain matches I don't go back and watch all the way through. A prime example of that, of a moment that I go back and watch all the time, is Kofi Kingston winning the WWE title. I go back and I watch the last 2 minutes of that match a lot. Matches that I go through all the way, it's going to sound dumb because it's another Shane McMahon match, but Shane versus Vince is the best soap opera drama match they've ever done. From start to finish, and Linda popping up out of that chair. That itself is one of the biggest pops I've ever heard in my life. But yeah, I'm with you on certain points. There are matches I like going back and revisiting all the time. Like I brought up The Rock and Mankind for the WWF title. I'll go back and watch the last 2 minutes of that match to watch Stone Cold come out, crack a few people with a chair, and then fucking drag Mick Foley over for that massive pop. I like those feelings. But there's a lot of matches that I enjoy revisiting, especially when it's super, super violent.
So, I'm kind of with you, Russ, on the spots of it. The matches, that's weird because the matches that I enjoy watching, over again, the whole match would be like a War Games or Stadium Stampede or a Royal Rumble. I love watching Royal Rumbles. And that's Clint knows that. Seriously, Clint comes over at
Rumble season. We're watching
Rumble. We have our series. 2008's always on there. We've got 2002. We have the set. Usually 92 sneaks its way in there somehow. We have the set of Rumble. Recently, we're gonna watch some of these ones from just a few years ago because these couple of Rumbles have been great, especially the Edge pop and Styles coming back. You can kind of watch that one until he gets back and then leave it. No, my hot take was going to be that I actually don't think, short of the spot where Mankind goes off the Hell in a Cell for the first time, I don't think that match is good.
It's not. It's a moment.
I just don't. It's
also
there.
The balls on Foley. The fucking huevos. That made him a legend.
Huevos grandes.
It did. Can I bring up a weirdo match that I really like? And it kind of ties in to Russ's thing, to the match that he likes, the Bash at the Beach match. What's wrong, LT? Oh, yeah, well, go ahead. So
I think their Boiler Room Brawl match is way better than that.
It is. It is. He's going to ban me from Twitch here in a second.
All right, so what are you saying? Say what you need to say. This is a safe space.
So right before Scott Hall left WWF at the time, he lost the Intercontinental title to Goldust in a match at the Royal Rumble. And that during a time that the Royal Rumble, that all pay-per-views, premium live events, all of those things were pretty much trash, short of like the Bret Hart matches, was a really good Goldust match, and probably Dustin Rhodes' best match as Goldust.
No,
I really like that because that was right. Like Scott Hall had to drop the title to leave. And that's one of my favorites.
Best Goldust match is him and Cody Rhodes versus The Shield. That's the best Dustin Rhodes WWE match of all time. I cried watching that match. I'll go back. You know what? Another thing, I'll go back and revisit that fucking match just because Dusty fucking beats up Dean Ambrose. And it's just a fun match. I love fun wrestling.
I could make an argument that, wait, which one are we talking about? Is this the one, the full Shield with the Usos match, or is this?
It was Cody and Goldust versus Roman and Seth.
The battleground. Okay.
Match.
Okay. Because the one with the Usos, I was like, that's not better than but I can buy that. But I'm talking straight one-on-one match. That's his best WWE. His best match ever is the Cody Dustin match on on Rampage, and that's or not Rampage, on Dynamite, and that's still probably the best Rampage or Dynamite match.
That was what?
No, Double or Nothing. Sorry, that's still one of my top like AEW matches.
It's definitely top 10 for me, but like if you want to talk about the match in AEW, I go back and revisit the most. John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and Hangman.
The Brody match.
The Brody tribute match. I go back and watch that match a lot.
Okay.
Beautiful match.
So sidebar on matches here, because it doesn't really matter on the match. Russ, what's a spot that you go back to visit? Like, what's a comfort spot?
He just said Hogan.
Well, there's that, but I'll tell you my number one. It's not. I am more of a pop guy than an in action spot.
Ooh, say what I want to hear. Talk to me, Daddy.
Jericho's debut.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Facing off with a Rock.
Yep.
Then I go CM Punk showing up at AEW. You're Cody at WrestleMania. Has made its way in, but I have to pull up Peacock for that because the clip that WWE has on their feed is, a very short version of it. I like the lead up. I like the pyro leading up to it. I like the uneasiness and all that.
The peacock.
I like I like, that's not the sound a peacock makes. It is if you fry it.
Alive. It's dumb.
Almost fucking.
This is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever done.
So, I like those. Every once in a while, it's like the Hardy Boys showing up at WrestleMania. Nice big pop, but Jericho tends to be number one. It goes Jericho, Punk, Cody right now is like one of the other.
How do you feel about the John Cena return at the 08 Rumble?
Don't care.
Overrated.
I see. I don't think so. It's so aggressive. And or here's another one that's a pop, but in a negative manner. And it's not Vince's quads. Cena at One Night Stand 06. When he comes out, the aggression that crowd has towards him is beautiful.
It was incredible. I mean, we have to give the guy credit. Like that was walking into a hornet's nest.
Mm-hmm.
Austin coming back at Backlash. That's a big pop. I love going back to rewatch. Daniel Bryan winning.
Sting's debut in WWF was sad to even go back and watch. Like if you forgot what that looked like, the Vigilante, as he was called in those days.
Ooh, Dolph winning the fucking world title after Mania. That place came fucking unglued.
Yeah, I don't know. The Jericho one is a very good one, especially for one that everybody knew what was going to happen. Like we didn't know, but we knew.
The Hogan and the Rock face off at WrestleMania was big.
Broke Mania.
Yeah, like just the amount of time and them kind of looking out at the crowd and then having to effectively like call a switch.
That should have main evented the show.
Absolutely. If there were ever a time that you don't have your championship close out the event, that's it.
That was it. You got fucking Bam Bam Bigelow and Lawrence Taylor main eventing WrestleMania 12. I think it was, or 14. No.
The D-Bry pop in the first match he wrestled on 30.
The pop when he won, and then the pop when he won the title at the end of the night.
Yeah. Big times.
Honestly, that monster video package might be better than My Way.
That's hard for me, man, because
My Way is absolutely the best video package.
I agree.
I
agree with Adam Blampier on one thing. The reason that the My Way video package isn't the #1 video package of all time is because they spend an entire minute in that video package just talking about Deborah. If they cut the Deborah part out of that package, it's #1. #1, honestly, is probably Running Up That Hill, the Taker Michaels video for WrestleMania 26. If you haven't watched that one, you need to. It's better than the one they ran for the pay-per-view. That yawn tells me we need to sign off for the night.
I think it's about time.
I'm just an old man. But I do agree. We've run for almost 2 hours. This has been fantastic, guys. I'm sorry I had to step away from my kid, but look, guys,
kids are always #1.
We're on a forklift pod. Like at this point, Russ, you're part of us. I mean, you're the smiling face. You're the known thing. Oh my God, what I was laughing about real quick before we sign off. This might get
Flying
Clint.
Peacocks?
No. When you were doing your impression, all I could think of, this is so dumb, because I know you were doing the Bernie Sanders, but you talked about UBI, like the universal base income, and all I can think is Jimmy Wang, Andrew Yang. I don't know if you know. Do you know who Jimmy Wang Yang is? He was the Asian cowboy character from SmackDown. And so now I'm just combining it with Andrew Yang, and I'm like, that's it's the universal basic income.
I think I'm doing the world a favor here.
You booted him out.
I think I'm doing the world a favor. I can't
believe.
And so as I was saying, Samoa Joe,
just keep talking. I'm going to sign off.
We are on a forklift pod. I am Nathan Hubbard at Jensen Collins 3. Above me to the left is Clinton Davis, and you can find him at PK Batman, aka Johnny Shitknuckles on Twitter. And above me to the right is Russell Joy on Broad. You can find him on the Snow the Goalie podcast. And after the Philadelphia 76ers game, I'm not sure if they won tonight, but for his sake, let's hope.
It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. That's absolutely fantastic.
Tomorrow.
Russ, do you have anything else that you would like to plug in this amount of time?
For all your legal sports betting needs, make sure you go follow me over on Twitter, and I'll point you in the right direction depending on the state that you are in. Michigan, Saturday Tradition; Illinois, Bleacher Nation; many of the states in the South, Saturday Down South. You're in Pennsylvania, crossingbroad.com. You're in New York, Elite Sports New York.
What if I'm in a state of depression?
That's
what I wanted. Yes.
There we go. It's time to go. And on that bombshell, it's time to end. Thank you so very much for watching. Good night.
We love you, Judy.
Shut the fuck